Hey everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter. Thanks for stopping by today. I am holding in my hands the brand new release from Pinkfresh Studios. I have all the stamps. A couple of the dies didn't make it to me in time, but I now have them. And I thought I'd walk you through it, starting out with this lovely Borders 2 stamp set. Now, I thought this would be cool to kind of stack some of these up and use them as kind of a background for a focal image. I love those triangles there on the top, and that's something that I might do with that. Here is the Unicorn Dreams stamp set. I love that there's these beautiful sentiments in here. And this unicorn is different than any other unicorn I think I've seen out there. Now, if you didn't want to have these in there in the middle, you could always mask that off and then stamp your stamp and then just color it normally. But it does have that kind of flourish in the middle, which makes it kind of stand out from all the other ones that I've seen. Now, this stamp set has a coordinating die set, but it doesn't cut out the images. It is actually the terrarium's die set, and I'm going to pull that out and show it to you here in just a minute. But you have all of the little bases for these succulents, and then the succulents themselves with some fun greetings as well. So this is the terrarium matching die set, and you can see how these little terrariums go around the bottom of those bases. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't even do the succulent thing, guys. I'm just no green thumb, fake plants in my house. You know how that is. So up next is Love Scale. Now, once again, with this image, if you wanted to mask out some of that detail in the face, you could definitely do that and put something else in there. I think it would be fun to use one of those epoxy dots, those big clear ones, over the center to make it look like it's real glass. And then I love how that sentiment is hidden within all of those hearts there on the top. Now, up next are a couple of very intricate dies. So what I did was, in order to show you exactly how beautiful and wonderful these die cuts are, I went ahead and die cut them out of some Nina Solar White cardstock just so you could get a feel for these. These are beautiful, and I think they would make a great statement just by themselves on top of some colored cardstock. Now, finally, to finish it up, we have the Say It With Florals, the Forest Friends, and the Let's Celebrate stamp set. Now, these all have matching die sets, and these dies are a little bit different than something else that I've seen out there. They actually kind of coordinate with the stamps and create a window on your card front. So you can see I have this little bear here. It actually stamps onto that die cut there, and you can see that opening there leaves you with a window. You have the little deer that lines up there, as well as a squirrel and the bird. So that's all really fun. And then you have the trees that you could stamp in the background of that window, maybe pop it up and put that in the background. I'm going to show you these two. This is the Say It With Florals and the Forest Friends in shaker card versions today. So you can see that these dies, I'm showing you that they have a cutting line around the entire border of the die. And for one of the techniques today, I'm going to show you how to partially die cut those so that you can actually have a window that goes all the way through not only just your card front, but your card base as well. But I'm starting out with just cutting them just as they are from some Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock here. And you can see, I love how those flower images kind of float there as well as the leaves. It's kind of something a little bit different. And then I've cut the Forest Friends one out as well. And I've cut these out a couple of times each because I'm making a couple of cards for each set. So now it's time to create a window through the front of our card base. But if we were to cut it as it is, that border that cuts around the edge would cause that to totally cut out of the front of our card, and we don't want to do that. We only want to cut the middle part. So I like to use these on the edge cutting plates. These are from Sizzix. I'll link them in the supplies below. There are smaller cutting plate. They're a cutting plate just like the other ones. They're just smaller. So it allows me to manipulate them a little bit more than the standard size cutting plates. You could definitely try this with standard size cutting plates. You can see I'm leaving that bottom edge off of the end of the platform. Only what's between the plates and the platform are going to cut. So anything that's hanging off of the platform is not going to cut. Now I'm going to show you that sometimes it's a little hard to get that started there. So I ended up moving my card front up to the top of this standard cutting pad where it's kind of angled so that I could get all of this going through my machine at once, because in the portion where it's not angled, it's hard to get it started through the machine. So I put that over the portion that's angled, and then I'm just going to run it through, and I'm going to stop before I get to that bottom line. Do you see how that bottom line is not going through the die cut machine? That means it's not going to cut. So because the smaller cutting pad is not covering the top part of that border cutout, that's not going to cut either. So the only part that I had cut was the part that was sandwiched between there and that went through the die cut machine. So anything that didn't go through didn't get cut. I'm going to show you this here in just a minute. Just stick with me. So once again, I'm doing the same technique with the Forest Friends die. And I'm going to be left with a card base that has the window through it, but that does not have it cut out around the edge as the die was intended. So that's going to allow me to make a really fun shaker card. And you're going to see that here in just a minute. So now it's time to take these card front panels, the panels that I created. These were created cutting the die cut as it was originally intended. And I'm going to do the stamping on top of these. I decided that since I was creating a couple of these cards, I would go ahead and use my Mini Misty, but you can definitely use these with a regular acrylic block. You just look down through your block to make sure you're stamping in the correct position. And I'm inking these up with some Puffy Heart ink from Altenew and stamping it down onto that card panel. Now, I didn't get a great impression the first time around. That's because these are brand new stamps. And anytime I find that I take a brand new stamp out of the package, it does not stamp well the first time. That's just part of the seasoning process that clear stamps have to go through. And it's okay. I just rectified the situation with a double stamp. And because I have this in my Mini Misty here, it's all lined up and ready to go. So I don't have to fuss with trying to stamp it on top of itself once again. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab that second card front. I'm going to put it in my Misty. I'm going to stamp these again using that Puffy Heart ink from Altenew. And I'm going to double stamp these so that I get a really nice deep dark image. And then I'm going to line up the greenery, and I'm using some Parrot ink from Altenew to stamp that. Now, I did want to mention that at first I had thrown the packaging of these stamp sets away. You don't want to do that. And I'll tell you why, because there is a little cheat sheet about where everything goes. So keep that in with your packaging. I dug it out of the trash. It's all good now. And I'm finishing off these florals with the center stamped in this purple wine ink. So once I was done with the Say It With Florals stamp set and coordinating die, I could go ahead and bring in my Forest Friends panel that I created earlier, and there's that little cheat sheet that I told you about. I'm going to just keep that in with my stamp pocket and die together. So I went ahead and stamped all of my little animals using some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I colored them using some Copic markers, and now I'm just taking a plain A2 size card base. This is a A2 size card base. It's cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and then scored at 5 1/2 to create a finished card that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I've just done a little ink blending on the card front so that I have kind of a background for the first type of shaker card that I'm creating. And the first type of shaker card that I'm creating is what I consider to be kind of a standard shaker card. So I've taken these window panels that I created with my dies and stamps, and I've cut down a piece of acetate that fits behind those windows so that everything will be contained. And I'm just adding some Be Creative tape around all of these to adhere my acetate onto the back of this window panel. Now, I chose the Be Creative tape because, number one, it is perfect for a lazy crafter because you can, oh, look, floating phone, hello. I think my husband was showing me something. But anyway, I chose the Be Creative because it's super strong and it's tearable. Like you can tear it, not it's terrible as in awful. So I like to quickly tear the pieces that I need, put them in place, and you can see I've gone ahead and attached that acetate onto the back of the Forest Friends one. And now for each of these, I am going to add a layer of foam adhesive around the edge of this window, making sure that all of the pieces of foam adhesive touch each other to create a container for my shaker guts. So you don't want to have any gaps in this foam because otherwise your shaker guts are just going to seep out, and nobody likes guts seeping out all over the place. I don't even think nurses like that, and I'm a nurse. I mean, that's usually not a good sign. So anyway, now that I have the foam tape on the back of these windows, surrounding those windows, I'm going to add some sequins just to the top of my card base here. And then I'm going to take my window panel and just place it over the top. You can see I had to get my head right down over the top of that. And then I have a shaker card here. So that is super fast, super easy. I'm just trying to beat these to where they're not stuck in a clump. So you may want to make sure that they're not all kind of clumped up before you adhere it on. You can see I had to go in with some scissors and lift that up to kind of push some of those sequins out of the way of the forest friends. So just be mindful of where your foam adhesive is and try to keep the sequins out of the way. Now for the second kind of shaker card, I am going to be using my fuse tool, and I've gone ahead and plugged it in, and I'm letting it heat up to get nice and hot so that it will make my job a lot easier when I go to seal these up. And I am just taking an Essentials by Ellen stamp storage sleeve. This is the standard size, and I'm cutting it down to about the size that I think I'm going to need. Sometimes I have to trim this down a little bit more, but it's better to cut it a little bit larger and have to trim it down later than cut it too small and have a waste. So I just kind of eyeballed it, and now I have this stamp pocket. It's sealed on the one edge where it came sealed from the manufacturer, and I am going to have to seal the other 3 edges using my fuse tool. So I've gone ahead and lined up that metal ruler along this right-hand edge here, and I'm going really slow. This is in real time. These stamp pockets are a lot thicker than some of the other stamp pockets that are on the market. So I wanted to make sure that I got a really good seal using my fuse tool, and I did. And you can see I stuck my fingers in there to check and make sure that that seal was nice and sturdy. And then at the top there, that is the edge that came sealed from the manufacturer. So I'm just going to leave that one as it is. Now, if I were doing this and I was putting it on top of the card where you were going to see it, I might seal that myself so that all the borders match, but in this case, it's going to be sandwiched between, so it's not going to matter. So now that I have 3 of the sides sealed, I am filling this with some sparkling clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. I have a little mini spoon there that I use to spoon it into my pouch, and now I'm sealing off the top portion so that none of my guts will fall out. Nobody wants guts spilling on them. So to attach this to the card base, once again, I'm using that Be Creative tape because it's terrible and strong, right? So I'm going to put that all over. I'm going to pull off the backer to expose the adhesive, and then I'm just going to take my shaker pocket and press it right onto there where the sequins are going to be in that opening. Now you kind of want to keep the sequins towards the middle of that opening because when you go to adhere the window panel on the front, you don't want that getting in the way of the adhesive that you're going to place on there. So you can see I'm moving all of those sequins kind of to the center. I'm going to put the Be Creative tape on the window panel that I created. So this was just created using the die as it was originally intended. And now I'm going to move these sequins out of my way. I may have gotten carried away with the amount of sequins that I used, but it's me. Hello. I like sparkly things. I can't help it. So you can see once I went ahead and attached the card front to that using just the regular die as it is where it cut the border around there, I have that little shaker pocket sealed between the card base that I cut the window through using the partial die cutting and then the card front using the die as it was. So now I have all of my cards here. I am going to finish them off with some Nuvo drops in this black color. I did it for the eyes and the nose of the deer. I also put some black drops in the center of those hearts over there. And then I'm going to use the pink to go around this kind of greenery that's surrounding these forest friends. I just thought it would be fun to bring in a little pop of brighter color since I have a lot of grays and browns with those little critters. So that finishes off my 2 kinds of shaker cards today, the traditional kind, as well as the kind using the fuse tool to create a shaker pocket sandwiched between. I also showed you a little bit of partial die cutting there today, and all of these fabulous products from Pinkfresh Studios, and you can check those all out. I'll have links to all the products featured in this video in the YouTube description, as well as over at my blog where you can find more still shots and more information. Head on over there because I have information on a giveaway too. This video is a part of the Pinkfresh Studio June release blog hop, and I have more information about that over on my blog as well. Thanks for stopping by today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up so that I know and YouTube knows. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for stopping by, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.